All right, we're going to learn about FileWriter and FileReader. FileWriter is really simple. So it is a class that is built into Java, as so many things are. And we're going to create a new FileWriter. And the constructor is going to ask for a string that basically says, hey, where do you want me to write this file? Now, you could use a class loader, but I'm going to just go ahead and directly put the path to the resources folder. So source/main/resources, and then give a name for my file. We're going to write a CSV file. I'm going to call it example.txt. I'll make it a txt file. Now you'll notice that FileWriter is going to have an exception because if we hover over it. It says unhandled exception, java.io exception. And the reason that it has this here is because it's basically saying, hey, like what happens if this doesn't exist? Like what happens if I try to write the file, but the location where you want me to write the file is not actually a real location? So Java says, listen, we know that this problem could possibly come up, so let's do a try catch, and then I actually want you to deal with a human. All right, so we're going to deal with it. So I'm going to do a try catch with IO exception, and the reason being it matches with the unhandled exception, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that inside the try block. And there we go. So now that the check exception is handled, we can move on with our lives. Now, the cool thing about FileWriter is it actually has an overload for its constructor. So what that means is that you can do FileWriter where you basically just say like, hey, here's where I want the file to land at. Or you can add a second argument and say true, and this will do an append to the file, meaning it will take any new information and write at the end of the line. All right, so let's actually use FileWriter. So FileWriter will expect you to actually go ahead and use the write method. All right, if you hover over write, it has a bunch of different overloads. We're going to just use the regular one where it takes a string. So we can basically say, hey, this is a cool line of text. And then the next one, FileWriter.write, this is another line of text. Now, if you want the text to actually have a carriage return, you're going to need to do /n. That way, you won't have all the text run as one gigantic line. Now, if we were to run this, as it is right now, actually I'll put a little message here for the exception, like could not find that path. All right, so let's say I run my thing right now, right, using FileWriter, and then cool, all right, made example.txt, but you'll notice that there's nothing in it. Okay, so it did make the file, but there's nothing in it. And so you may be wondering, well, Jonathan, didn't we just tell it to write to the file? Yes, but we did not close the FileWriter. So now I'm going to close the FileWriter, and I'm going to run my program again, and we'll see the difference. All right, so this time, you know that there's now actually text inside my file. So what gives? FileWriter is not actually going to write into the file. Like it will create the file as you saw, but it will not put anything into it until you do FileWriter.close. So one of the biggest things that drives beginners up the wall is they forget to do FileWriter.close and then don't see anything in their file. Now, as far as FileWriter.write, you can do what you want. FileWriter.write, literally like whatever you want. Okay, as a string, and then you're able to write stuff to the file. Now keep in mind though, as it currently stands, because we have FileWriter is not in append mode, whenever I run this program, it's going to overwrite whatever example.txt. Alright, so notice that now we have these things and we would just overwrite the file. If you would like to take what's already in the file and add to the end of it, then in the constructor for FileWriter, you're going to put true. Alright, so now it's in append mode. Alright, so now let's give it a try and see what happens. Alright, it's done. Notice how now we've basically repeated ourselves. So if I do this again, it's going to append these lines to the end of the file as opposed to overwriting the entire file. So sometimes you may want to stick stuff at the end, sometimes you may not want to do that. Okay, cool. So now we're able to use the FileWriter to actually write stuff to the file. Now I want to do something in the opposite direction where I want to take the file and read stuff from the file. Alright, so I've added a poem to my resources folder, and we're going to actually redo some poetry slam. Alright, so first off, I need to stream the data from the file so I can actually read it. So I'm going to use FileInputStream, which is a built-in JavaScript class. So I'll say FileInputStream equals new FileInputStream. And now the input stream needs to know, hey, where do you want me to get the information from? Like, what file do you want me to open and stream to you? So we'll do source/main/resources/eatspoem.txt. Okay, so like I am a big fan of Yates, so we will now also notice that we have we have a check exception. So it says, hey, like file not found exception. You asked me to go find a file, but it might not be there. Okay, human, we're going to need a try catch, so we will do that. Try catch. Okay, and we're going to do the exact exception, file not found exception, and we're going to put our offending code into the try catch. All right, there we go. So now you've got your stream, but now you need something to read the stream. Remember, stream is just a stream of data. We can't do anything with it in the raw stream form. So we need a scanner to actually take this stream and actually scan it line by line. So now I've taken a scanner, and scanner is typically used with system.in to like take in keyboard strokes, but it does not have to be the only thing that we use. All right, now let's go ahead and like loop through it. So string input, I'll just have a placeholder variable, and then while scanner.hasNextLine. So scanner.hasNextLine is a method that says, hey, like as I'm going line by line by line through this file, ask me like whether or not it can continue. So this is a way of saying like, hey, do we have more file to go through? So as long as there's more file to go through, well, what do? Well, input will equal to scanner.next line. Okay, so we're going to read the line that we get from the file stream into the scanners and pick out that line. And then we are going to take that line and print it out to the screen. If there's an exception, we'll just basically say like could not find that file. So now let's go ahead and see if our program is going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. Now we have a Yeats poem. I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, etc., etc. And you are able to actually read the file. So again, FileInputStream, you give it a string saying basically where is the file that you would like me to stream and read for you. We take that stream and we feed it into the scanner, because that's what the scanner does. It takes incoming information and does stuff with it. Then I will go ahead and do a while loop while scanner.hasNextLine, meaning basically, hey, have we reached the end of the file yet or not? If we have not reached the end of the file yet, we will continue to loop through it. I will use a scanner to grab the next line, basically reading the poem line by line by line, and then printing out said line. You could do this technique to read CSV files, like if you wanted to read pipe delimited CSV files, or to use comma delimited CSV files and use a split method. But anyways, you are able to now use the FileWriter class to write files. You can choose a pen mode or not a pen mode by changing the constructor. FileWriter.write will write your lines, but you must have FileWriter.close to actually commit these changes to said file. Remember, FileWriter could throw an IO exception, so we must use a try catch, and then with FileInputStream could throw a file not found exception, so we also must use a try catch. All right, so these are two basic examples of how to use FileWriter and FileInputStream, and now you can read and write files to your heart's content. Happy coding.